Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our program, Awesome Asian Americans. I'm delighted to be here with Oliver Chin, Philip Amara, and Juan Calle. I'm sorry, hopefully that's correct. And glad that you guys were all able to join us for Awesome Asian Americans, our first program for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. My name is Maggie Pence, and I am the Education and Programs Coordinator with the Chinese Historical Society of America. Just a few things before you get started today. As you can see, we've turned off your video and microphones, and we just ask that you keep them off throughout the program. At the end, students will be able to turn on their cameras so that they can interact with our presenters. And also, we recommend that you go and press the hide and non-participants button. And this is just going to improve your view of the program so you can focus on the pictures instead of on people's icons. If you have any questions for the program, you can either put them, if you're able to, put them in the general chat. You can also send them to Sammy. She's going to virtually raise her hand. She is the account CHSA Q&A. And at the end, we'll also allow students to turn on their cameras to also interact with our presenters as well. And finally, I hope you have your pencils, papers, and coloring pages ready to go for our drawing session. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very happy to have all the presenters here today. This is not the first time they've all partnered together. They've also worked together on the Asian Hall of Fame series. I'm going to turn the show over to them right now. Oh, Kimberly, we're going to turn that off, actually. So I'm going to turn the show over to Oliver and Philip and Juan right now so you can learn more about Awesome Asian Americans. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We appreciate Maggie's help as well as all the other staff members for the Chinese Historical Society of America. So I was with them a couple months back to read the story time for the Year of the Ox, and I'm glad to be returning with my friends Phil Amara and Juan Calle. So we're going to be talking about our new book, Awesome Asian Americans. We'll be doing some screen sharing. First, to do a small PowerPoint introduction to some of the themes that we try to raise and grapple with. Phil will read a couple excerpts. I'll come back, read a couple excerpts, and then Juan will grace us with some amazing live drawing with his stylus and Photoshop. So here we go. So we're going to go to a screen share of my slideshow. So we're happy to kick off May with this event today and talk about a lot of issues which are continuing to confront us on a daily basis here in the United States. So just a little bit of background for Medium, our publishing company. We're based here in San Francisco. We've started in 2005 and have done more than 50 titles, most of which are children's picture books ranging from the Octonauts, which inspired the hit animated TV series worldwide, as well as our series on the animals of the new year. With Phil and Juan, we've done this recent series on amazing inventions from Asia called the Asian Hall of Fame. Over the last few years, we've done stories about how ramen, fireworks, and gunpowder, and anime and manga were created and then changed the world. And along the way, we've tried to also focus...
really like manga.
Oh, thank you so much. You got to read that book. Juan did an amazing job with dozens and dozens and hundreds of characters from everyone's favorite top 10 lists. And then we've focused a lot on increasing the representation of Asian American characters and themes in the
go watch anime, and that is basically going to be main.
Okay.
So just go watch anime.
We wanted in our newest story to bring it back from the world of fiction into the world of reality and talk about people from the past century to the present who have definitely contributed to our country in a lot of different ways. So as we all know, there are a lot of issues and problems that our country and our world still face, and we want to inspire the next generation of adults to take up where we've left off and hopefully change the world for the better. So as we know, over the last year, a lot of issues have confronted us on a personal and a cultural level, one of which was Black Lives Matter, which still bleeds into today, unfortunately. And so from a lot of these issues, they've affected other communities of color, whether it's immigration or just the right to exist in a peaceful and productive manner. As we know, the pandemic's still raging, especially overseas, but here in our country, violence against Asian Americans continues unabated. And so whether that affects even healthcare workers who have to try to tend to bigoted patients, to our own halls of government where there's a political divide and actually being able to call out racism and hate crimes. It's something that we're continuing to have to confront and read about almost on a daily basis. So one of the issues we wanted to raise was the issue of representation. So this was an article in the New York Times a couple months back, and it starts with images of more than 900 of the most powerful people in our country, ranging from politics to law, entertainment, and business. And a certain amount of them are highlighted here, and a larger majority amount are in the shaded section. So a question is, what makes these people in 80% of the category common, and what is the common denominator of the other 20%? So I'll let you guys think about that just for a brief second. So if you look at them, you can try to guess why they're two different groups. And the reason is one group is people of color and the other group are Caucasians or whites. So 80% are whites, even though in terms of the whole population of America, it's only 60% white and it's 40% people of color. So people of color are vastly underrepresented in positions of power. So we're undergoing this gradual demographic shift in our country from being a majority Caucasian country to, in the year 2050, becoming a majority country of people of color. And so as the total population of America keeps growing, the population of whites is pretty much going to stay the same, and their percentage will decline. And we see this dynamic playing out in politics, especially now as Republicans are trying to restrict voting rights because they do not want this growing slice of America to have as much power as they do. So in literature in America, we're seeing the same pattern. Traditionally, over the last century, people of color have been underrepresented in children's picture books. Only recently, within the last decade, has that started to change. And in the form of graphic novels, we've shifted from superheroes and superheroines to being able to tell stories about pretty much anyone, regardless of whether they're ordinary or not. And so that's changed for people of color, and also, and specifically, Asian Americans who are now talking about their own lives and stories. We think that's definitely the trend that we wanted to tie into. As we've lived our lives, we've seen a representation of Asians be stereotyped from the very beginning, where the people who created images and stories were not even Asian themselves, and people in positions of power in media cast white actors as Asians, and this practice of yellowface has definitely fallen out of favor. So just within the last 5 years, we've seen a greater representation of Asian American stories because they've had to tell these stories themselves. And last year, this PBS documentary came out, which recapped a lot of the progress and travails Asians have experienced, and in movies and also in the realms of business and politics, we see glimmers of hope where Asians are kind of breaking through that ceiling that's been imposed upon them. So if you've been watching the Oscars, even though Oscar viewership declined probably 80%, you remember that Chloe Zhao won the Best Director award for her film Nomadland. And that was definitely a breakthrough for Asian Americans, as well as the Best Supporting Actress for Minari. So during her acceptance speech, Chloe Zhao said that when she was a child growing up in Beijing, China, she remembered reading the story with her father, the three-character classic, which was written in the 13th century. And she said the first line was, "People at birth are inherently good." And I would agree with that. But she didn't read the next stanza or part of the stanza. So people at birth are inherently good. That was the first line. But the next line was, their natures are similar, their habits become different. If negligently not taught, their nature deteriorate. The right way to teach is with absolute concentration. And I think this is exactly the situation where we find ourselves in America and in other countries as well, where even if we start off from a common point, we quickly diverge depending on who we are taught by and who we listen to and what we actually then start to think, whether it's driven by a YouTube algorithm or not. And so through this divergence, the only way to come back together is through a concerted effort of education. And this relates back to a song by Billie Holiday, God Bless the Child, and a line from that, she says, them that's got shall have, them that's not shall lose. So we're definitely experiencing a kind of power struggle, not just in terms of politics, but also in terms of culture. So that gives the background of what we wanted to raise in our stories of 10 women and 10 men who've changed the world, not by luck, but more by persistence from a range of different cultural backgrounds and occupations. So illustrated by Juan, we wanted to make these stories exciting and dynamic as befitting the people who we were profiling. We wanted to give each person 6 pages, starting off with a profile picture and a quote. And then over the next 2 spreads, have a big dynamic full-page illustration encapsulating one of their highlights of their lives. And so through this experience of sharing people from a rainbow of different occupations and skills, we wanted to inspire kids and parents and educators to use the book in a way which would motivate students to pursue their dreams, especially because of what's happening today. So that's a little bit of the background, and I'll cede the floor to Phil, and we'll do a screen share of the particular chapters that Phil will be reading so you guys can follow along.
Hello, everybody. So I'm going to be starting off first, and thank you so much for coming, and our fan that shouted out manga and anime, right on. So I'm going to be reading Tyrus Wong. So before I was a school teacher, I was the editor at a comic book company, and before I ever did this book, Tyrus was one of those guys that people in those cousin media, I'll call it, of, you know, illustrated children's books, animation, comic books, any of like that kind of illustrator pop culture. You know, we knew the name, but it was really fun to research more of him. Usually when I read from the Tyrus chapter, I start at the beginning, but I'd like to switch it up a little bit. And I'm actually going to be, if you have the book, I'm going to be starting on page 4. And there's some other interesting things about his relationship with Disney that I think are nice to do in an event like this. So we'll just quickly mention the basics with him. And Oliver will have it on the screen, and I'll have the book in front of me. He was born in 1910, and he was from China. He died in 2016 in California. And his quote that we liked for the book was, "If you put down just what is necessary, you will have a great painting. If you can do a painting with 5 strokes instead of 10, you can make your painting sing." So for those of you that know the movie Bambi, Tyrus was one of, if not the driving force, although not an animator, to the look that had to be interpreted for the movie. And certainly a lot of fun to research. So I'm going to be starting around the middle of page 4. Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, author of the 1990 book Walt Disney's Bambi, wrote his, meaning Tyrus, paintings, styling sketches, watercolors, and pastels would give a whole new appearance to the picture, meaning Bambi, distinct from any we had previously given or would ever give any film. However, as one of only 2 Asian artist, Tyrus faced some prejudice, and that's putting it mildly, I think. When other artists went on strike, he continued to work. After the strike was over, he was fired. 1941. When Bambi debuted the next year, Tyrus was only listed in the credits as one of the 9 quote-unquote background artists. Tyrus rebounded as a pre-production illustrator for Warner Brothers Studios for the next 27 years. So it's funny to think, you know, even I associate him with Disney, but he actually spent a lot of his time at Warner Brothers. In a cinematic era before pre-visualization on computers, like before you could just, you know, draw and erase everything on a computer the way the artists at Pixar do, his conceptual illustrations enabled directors to decide how to film scenes and how the set could look. He contributed to the movies, and some of our younger people in the audience might not know the movies, but I'm going to list them anyway. Sands of Iwo Jima, Rebel Without a Cause, Around the World in 80 Days, The Music Man, Camelot, and The Wild Bunch, and many others. Meanwhile, the Chinese Exclusion Act was repealed in 1943, and he became a U.S. citizen in 1946. Tyrus's imagination never stopped. At home, he would go up to his own studio, so in his house, not at a movie studio, and work more. He collaborated to sell his hand-painted silk scarves to boutiques. He decorated ceramic dinnerware that were sold in department stores nationwide, playing records of Christmas carols in June. To help him imagine an elf or angel, he designed holiday cards, one of which sold more than 1 million copies. His daughters, Kim, Tai Ling, and Kay, remember their dad fondly. He clearly knew he wanted to bring a Chinese brush feel to much of his work, said Tai Ling. It's possible he knew that he had a unique style that was different from work done by others. By observing his surroundings, he could capture a feeling: solitude, peace, excitement, or joy, recounted Kim. We'd often see him making small sketching movements with his drawing hand, transferring something he was looking at into a sketch in his mind. Then at an age when other retirees planned their vacation, Tyrus started making kites. His daughters witnessed his inventive passion. Our dad was always creating art. Growing up, we benefited from his rich imagination and creativity, from his designs of our family's home and garden to the handmade holiday gifts he created for us, even when he was in his 90s. Tyrus was invited back to work at Disney on its 1998 animated movie, Mulan. He declined. Mouse life was behind him. I probably know what mouse life means. Wink, wink. However, in 2001, Disney inducted him into their Legends Hall of Fame. Walt's nephew, Roy Disney, said of Tyrus, he only worked at the studio for 3 years, and during that time devoted himself to just one movie, Bambi. But what a film it was. Hope you enjoyed a little peek into the world of Tyrus Wong.
Okay, Phil, did you want to do a second?
I did. Did you want to swap back and forth, or you want me to go right into it?
You can go right into it.
Okay. Give me 1 second. The next one we're going to do is Bruce Lee. Leave it to me not to look on the table of contents, right?
Page 37.
There's my ADHD kicking in, right? Bruce Lee, who needs no introduction, at least to, I think, a lot of people. Born in 1940 in California and died in 1973 in Hong Kong. And here's his quote from the book. True mastery transcends any particular art. It stems from mastery of oneself, the ability developed through self-discipline to be calm, fully aware, and completely in tune with oneself and the surroundings. Then and only then can a person know himself. The 1973 movie, The Game of Death, presaged video games. 5'7" Billy Lowe, the character's name, Bruce's character, clad in a yellow tracksuit, which you can see in the screen share right now, fights his way up a pagoda to steal a treasure. But to reach this prize, he must defeat bosses of increasing difficulty. And boy, it really does sound like just about half the video games made after that, at least in that action genre. The fifth floor guardian is the 7'2" giant named Mantis in the movie, played by the 1971 most valuable player in the NBA, for those basketball fans out there, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who became really good friends with Bruce Lee, actually. The film's star was its creator, who constantly battled prejudice. Shockingly, he died before completing the story, right when he was to become the most famous martial artist ever. When the man is even bigger than the myth, that is Bruce Lee. In 1939, the Cantonese Opera Company invited Li Hoi Chen, a renowned Hong Kong actor, on their American tour. His wife, Grace, from a wealthy family and whose mother was English, accompanied as a wardrobe manager. The next year, Li Junfan, the fourth of their 5 children, was born in San Francisco's Chinese hospital. A nurse suggested his English name, Bruce. According to the Chinese zodiac, he was born in the auspicious year of the Golden Dragon and in the dragon's morning hour. At 3 months old, at 3 months, not 3 years, at 3 months old, he was cast in his first film called Golden Gate Girl. The family returned to Kowloon, Hong Kong, into a continent at war. After bombing Pearl Harbor, Japan invaded its Asian neighbors. When World War II ended, the Lees continued their cinematic careers. Nicknamed Little Dragon, Bruce appeared in 20 movies by the age of 20. As a teen, Bruce was indifferent at school and prone to street fighting. He sought discipline in combat from Ip Man, a Wing Chun master. The student grappled with how to relax while facing an opponent. Taking a boat ride to meditate, Bruce hit the water in frustration. He then realized water symbolized the essence of Kung Fu, time spent at hard training. And here is his quote. "I struck it just now, but it did not suffer hurt. Again, I stabbed it with all my might, yet it was not wounded. I then tried to grasp a handful of it, but it was impossible. This water, the softest substance in the world, could fit itself into any container. Although it seemed weak, it could penetrate the hardest substance in the world. That was it. I wanted to be like the nature of water." Putting his skills into practice in 1958, Bruce won championships in high school boxing in Hong Kong's Cha-Cha dance contest. Yeah, that's true. However, rivals still denigrated his mixed heritage. In 1959, to avoid further trouble, the parents sent their handsome son on a steamship to San Francisco. Traveling to Seattle, Washington, Bruce became a restaurant waiter for his father's friend, Ruby Chow. After earning his high school diploma, he enrolled in the University of Washington and majored in philosophy. Dissatisfied with the local martial arts schools, he started his own in 1963. The Junfan Gung Fu Institute in a parking garage. A new student, Linda Emery, became his girlfriend, and he published the book, Chinese Gung Fu, The Philosophical Art of Self-Defense.
Okay, thanks a lot, Phil. So I'm going to just do a couple samples of some more. Even though we cover, again, a spectrum of cultural backgrounds, we're going to do a couple more Chinese Americans. One is Dr. Flossie Wong-Stahl, who just recently passed away last year. So I'll read the beginning and then I'll skip forward. For me, as most researchers, the main motivation is simply the satisfaction of making discoveries, finding out things no one knew before. Thought to have come from chimpanzees in the early 20th century, the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, spreads through bodily fluids. It weakens people's immune systems so they get sick from other infections. Late-stage HIV is lethal and is called acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS. HIV and AIDS spread across the globe in the 1970s and still have no cure. In 2019, AIDS was the primary cause of human death due to infectious disease and the fourth leading cause of death worldwide. 38 million people have HIV, and almost as many has died from AIDS-related diseases since the epidemic started. However, the rates of infections and mortality have gradually declined. That is due in part to the scientific contributions of Flossie Wong-Stahl. So I'll move forward. She came from Hong Kong after the diaspora when the communists took over China after World War II. So I'm just going to read this section here. She's already at the NIH in Washington, D.C. The year 1983 was a breakthrough for Flossie. Not only had she another daughter, Caroline, but also made the discovery of a lifetime. Her and Gallo's team identified HIV as the cause of AIDS independently but simultaneously with the French research team. Flossie recounted, "We were again in the minority, and most people at the time were looking at all kinds of wild potential causes of AIDS, but we stuck with our hypothesis that a retrovirus was involved and went down the path looking for evidence of retroviruses. In 1983, our lab at NIH first isolated viruses from AIDS patients. My group was brought on board once the virus was propagated in tissue culture, and we recognized it as a new virus. My job was to understand what this virus was, so we were the first to clone and sequence the virus. We also showed the diversity of HIV, the reason why it's so difficult to make a vaccine or avoid drug resistance issues." And this is tied directly to the situation that we're living through today with another virus and the challenge for science as well as for people to adapt and combat it. So I'm just going to read quickly another section. This will be of Helen Zia. So this is chapter 11. And we had the pleasure of meeting Helen Zia in Oakland last year, and she, along with some other people, actually approved their biographies and added key information to it. Her quote was, "We have to speak up. Nothing gets done unless you speak up, whether it's in America or anywhere else." On June 19th, 1982, Vincent Chen, a 27-year-old Chinese American, celebrated his upcoming marriage. A draftsman at an engineering firm and a waiter, he had his bachelor's party in Highland Park, a city within Detroit, Michigan. The U.S. auto industry had collapsed, and many blamed it on competition from Japan and anyone who looked Japanese. At an adult bar, Ronald Ebbins, a Chrysler plant superintendent, and his 23-year-old stepson, Michael Nitz, singled out Vincent and were overheard using racial epithets. The two groups were thrown out of the club. The two white men grabbed a baseball bat from their car and attacked Vincent in a nearby McDonald's parking lot. Nitz held Vincent's arms as Ebbins swung the bat repeatedly at Vincent's head. 4 days later, Vincent was removed from life support. His wedding guests went to his funeral instead. Nitz and Ebbins never spent a day in jail. 9 months later, after pleading guilty to manslaughter, the pair was sentenced to 3 years probation and fined $3,000 by a judge who did not call witnesses or have a prosecutor present at sentencing. A laid-off Chrysler auto worker herself, Helen Zia followed the local news. Frustrated by the injustice, she recognized the racism she suffered as a child. She was a long way from home, trying to find her calling. This became the turning point that directed her life. Helen grew up with 5 siblings in New Jersey where few Asians lived. Her mother, Bailin Wu, was a young widow when she met and married her father in New York City's Chinatown. A translator with General Chiang Kai-shek's staff in National China, Yi found his skills were not marketable in America. He created a small home business. The family made baby trinkets that he peddled to flower shops. He enjoyed writing literature in Chinese and English. So proud of his heritage, Yi sued Encyclopedia Britannica for errors in its China entry. Growing up, when many saw Asian Americans as foreigners, Helen felt out of place, not fully Chinese or American. "I definitely grew up hearing every kind of taunt, and it would make me angry," she told Bill Moyers in his PBS.TV series Becoming American, The Chinese Experience. "You never knew when somebody would yell at you, 'Go back where you came from.'" Although her father insisted that the proper place for an unmarried Chinese daughter is to stay home with her parents, Helen received a full scholarship to attend nearby Princeton University. There she encountered the rising Asian American movement. "I learned that I was an Asian American," she recounted. "I learned that I didn't have to call myself Oriental, like a rug. It was like a light bulb going off." She co-founded the Asian American Students Association and obtained a grant to visit China in 1972. She graduated in Princeton's first coeducational class in 1973. So it wasn't that long ago that even women couldn't go to college with men. But unfortunately, since that time and Vincent Chen's time, we're still dealing with Asian American racism and have to stand up and be counted against that. So I'm going to stop the screen share, and we're going to go and hand it over to Juan so he could show you some amazing live drawing.
All right. So this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a really fast sketch in the way that I did for the book. So what I do is I get some reference, in this case, Bruce Lee. Yes, he's a favorite of many, including myself. So what I do is just get some good pictures. I started learning when I was young. I started learning just by copying drawings, and later on I discovered that you also have to learn to draw from life, to to understand proportions, to know how to figure how the body moves, right? So what I do is I just gently do some lines, general lines, to see where the where the focus is going to go, the face, the hands, the pose of the body, right? And then I adjust the character as I see fit, right? So we know he has the nunchucks, he has the hand right about here, right? I don't draw details, I just draw general things first, and then I go to details. Always go from big to small. That's something I learned the hard way. So always draw the big parts first. Like I don't have to draw all the fingers here. Just let's say the hand is here, right? The arm, we got the torso going. All right, now that we have established the general position of the body, then I start going into details. So let's see, we set up here, the hair will go this way, the ear, nose will go this way, right? He's not looking pretty happy. When Bruce Lee was happy, he looked very, like, you could see it in the movie. But when he was mad, oh boy. I recommend Bruce Lee's movies for those who like action movies. It's different from the modern ones, but still. So what did I do for the book? I just do Oliver will send me, okay, we need this and this character. I will get the references, compose the page, send it over to Oliver. Oliver will do the revisions, and then I will finish it, right? I will go to a second version, and then I will add color, and then you get your book. After a lot of going back and forth, sometimes it's good from the beginning, sometimes it needs to be adjusted, right? I used to watch a lot of animated movies based on Bruce Lee that I didn't know it was Bruce Lee until much later, especially some related to the Monkey King, Sun Wukong, the legendary character from Journey to the West, one of the first epic tales that I read when I was a kid, coming from China. I had all the collection, and when I was older, I watched a lot of animated films, and the character was not like it wasn't a monkey, it was Bruce Lee, but I didn't realize it until much later. Okay, so always, like, I try to control where the pencil goes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think we're getting there. This is basically what I will show Oliver and Phil, and they will look at it and they will just tell me, just throw that in the trash, do it all over, and then I will do it all over. There you go. So that is the general pose. That's how I will do the illustrations for this particular book. Sometimes I just do it from imagination. Most of the compositions done for the book are just like I imagine the character, because sometimes you don't get all the reference that you want. In the case of Bruce Lee, well, he's very since he's done a lot of work for films, then you have a lot of reference. There you go. Was that okay? Did you guys see it?
I think it looks great. We have a couple messages coming in that says it looks so amazing. Right now, is it okay? I will let people to turn on their cameras and microphones if they want to share any drawings that they're able to do. So if you can draw as good as Juan, maybe you can be hired. If anyone was able to keep up and draw, you can show us your picture now.
Yes, I can.
Okay, is that Edward?
But the issue is that it's on my computer. I'm using my mom's computer. And what I have, I'm using my mom's old 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro, but my computer is the 2020, still the Intel 2020 chip. So that's a bit of an issue, but yeah, but I think I may be able to pull it up, and I do a lot of the anime drawing, so if you have any anime type books, hire me. I would only take anything above $10, or maybe $20 or $30, in fact, because any less I will decline immediately.
Don't undersell yourself, kid. You're charging too low. Raise that bar.
Anything under $80, I am not going to accept. Yes, I need to buy the Switch Pro when that comes out. So I need like a lot of money. I currently have like I think I have about 340, not 40, $380. So, because I want to get myself a nice iPhone because.
Thanks, Edward.
We're glad on camera physically and verbally abusing you. But do I have to?
Well, Edward, we're going to let someone else also have a chance to speak and answer questions, but you have a job ahead of you, I think, as an illustrator, it sounds like. Mark, I see you turned on your camera. Did you have any questions at all? Or no? Okay, that's okay. Did anyone else have any questions?
No, I just said he was hired.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
Okay, so Mark is looking for an illustrator, it sounds like Edward did.
How much money are you offering?
You got to take that offline.
Yeah.
It's up for negotiation, but we need to continue with this program right now. All right.
I say 200 or 300. Maybe
Okay,
1,000. Normal offer price. I'm nearly 10. I'll be 10 in December. So think about the cost. And email.
You are my agent.
Well noted. And let's continue with other people contributing, and we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Okay, Juan, draw something.
Another thing is that put me in the next book because before this I tried to eat myself to my death because I'm kind of stupid.
Thank you, Edward. We're gonna have Juan do some more drawings, and then Oliver, Philip, and Juan, could you tell us maybe a little bit more about your favorite characters that you either drew or that you wrote about?
Okay.
And if anyone else has any questions, you can send them directly to me.
I think for Juan and I think I'm speaking for Juan because we've done enough of these. It's the least academic in the book. I think our guilty pleasure, I don't know if I'll call it favorite, let's say our guilty pleasure is The Rock.
Okay.
Sorry that it wasn't a more sophisticated answer, but you asked. So.
No, that's great. Why was The Rock? It was because it was the least academic, or?
Let me see if I have The Rock.
So I can't pick favorites. That's the role of the publisher. You have to be very ecumenical and who you like. So they are all our favorites in the sense that they all got into the book. There are a lot of people obviously to choose from, and we've had feedback from people who missed some of their favorite and influential people. So we hopefully have the opportunity to include them at a later date, but just the mere fact that we were able to have 10 women and 10 men, I think that gave a great range for Juan to illustrate.
And do you guys think you'll do another Awesome Asian Americans book?
Yeah, we'll take that offline with Juan, no matter of how busy he is.
Yeah. Awesome. And Oliver, who was your favorite to draw or to write about?
Well, I definitely got a lot of photos for Juan to pick and choose from, but yeah, I'll be diplomatic and say that, you guys, as readers, we wanted to give you enough of a menu so you could pick your favorites, and that's probably as best as we could do.
Are you guys seeing the what I'm doing? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
This one, this is the late version of The Rock. I'm much more familiar with when he was beginning as a wrestler and he had hair, right? He wasn't as muscular, but he was leaner and more like dynamic. I don't know. Here I'm basically doing the same process that I did for Mr. Lee. So I just go back and forth from close to see it from afar to see if I'm getting right the proportions, right? I erase a lot because I'm so insecure I don't know how some artists just do it without erasing. It's like, it's insane. I think it boasts a lot of confidence when you don't erase, but I haven't got to that point yet.
I'm erasing all the time, and I'm not an artist at all. So that's like, watching this was making me feel better about, okay, you are, you know, just kind of sketching and erasing. So
yeah, that, like, eraser is my friend. I try not to, like, I have tried not to, but that's a skill that you get with a lot of practice.
and then again, we're gonna let Juan keep drawing, but if you guys do want to ask a question, either raise your hand, or you can turn on your camera. Okay, I see that we have Alex and Maya. What is your question?
Oh, no, I just turned on my video because.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, and I see we do have Edward. Your hand is raised again. I'm gonna get other people a chance to ask questions as well, before we go back to you. So if anyone else has a question, you can either raise your hand, you can turn on your camera, or otherwise we're gonna just watch the drawing session and learn about the rock. And then, or Phil, could you tell us a little bit more about Vicki Davis?
Oh, Vicki Draves?
Or Vicki Draves?
Yeah, so she has a Filipino background, and I had no idea who she was before the book. And I think it was the purity of her goal. She simply was going to be the best diver, period. And I don't know if this stat made it into the book. I don't remember actually, but somewhere in Oliver and I researching both Sammy Lee and Vicki Draves, I think it said she practiced an average of 125 dives a day as she was practicing for the Olympics. I mean, who does that? I like to think I work hard at certain things, and you think of all the people that you say, wow, the training that must have taken. That was astounding to me. Yeah, so you know, just the sheer dedication and will was very impressive to me. So she became my favorite. The one, I'm sorry, The Rock is my favorite, the one that was the most expiring. So.
Okay. So Edward's question was if you guys, his request for the next book is to do Plain Rock 124. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but that's his request for the next book.
All right. We can take a look at that.
Yeah, cool. And then when you guys were deciding, how did you guys decide who you were going to put into the book?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, again, we wanted a diverse crew, people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, as well as different time periods. And we wanted it to be gender balanced, 50% women, 50% men. And there are a lot of famous people out there who are, in the public eye, but we wanted people who actually were able to do meaningful things and to stand up and be counted. So a lot of people who are famous.
I think Oliver and I'm pretty sure, I know how I felt about it. We started with a very long list, and I kind of became, I wouldn't say territorial, but I certainly wanted to lobby hard. And there were some that didn't make it into the book, like Chloe Kim, the snowboarder. We really labored over making it, as Oliver said, very, very balanced across achievement, Asian heritage, backgrounds, inspiring story. But there were a lot that we would have loved to have put in. So.
Yeah, and we wanted the whole sum of the parts to be enough so that you would see something different in every chapter, and also give enough of a variety for Juan to illustrate, just a wealth of different poses and situations, whether it's from entertainment to business. And with that, it's sort of an encyclopedia type of approach.
Right. Well, looks like we have a question. They're on the screen right now from Maverick. So I just pressed the unmute button for you guys.
Maverick.
I like the Bruce Lee doll.
My name is Ayla.
Oh,
I
hi.
like this
Hi,
one.
you two. I'm glad you like his art.
I like this one. How about this one?
That one
I
good
think
too?
they said they like Bruce Lee.
Not as good.
Okay,
Everybody's a critic.
Adra. Very good.
There you go. That's a rock.
Oh, Amanda, it looks, or well, your name says Amanda.
Amanda's mom. Yeah.
Amanda, yeah. Do you have a question?
One of the books you guys were showing, I have one of them.
Oh, which one?
Which one?
Which book do you have?
The Becoming Muhammad Ali.
Oh,
Muhammad Ali.
okay.
Oh,
Did you like that? Becoming Muhammad Ali. What's your
I like
name?
the book.
What's your name?
My name's Malcolm.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Malcolm.
There you go. I did the rock.
Hey, Edward, is there a question about Plain Rock 124?
124. No, but Daniel Day Kim. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you haven't put him in the book. I don't think were you even considering him.
Well, he's not in the book, but he is interesting.
Yes, he's great.
Yeah.
I wanted to, like, I have a list of Asian actors that I want to draw, and Daniel Day Kim, like, it's in that list.
Well, thank you, Edward.
Thank you, Edward.
Yeah, were there any other questions before we have a few minutes left, so we still have time for more questions. I don't know if we have time for another drawing. Okay, so I see over here, Walter, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering, sorry, got some background stuff. I was wondering, do you think you could, is there anything that is a little easier to draw? Because some of the stuff like is sort of hard when you don't have, or when you have paper and stuff like that. Is there like a simple drawing that we could draw or something?
Do I have something to draw that is less complicated than?
Yeah, like a little less, hard. Yeah.
No, in this, like, the only thing that I can think of right now that it was easy for me to draw now was the dragon on the Bruce Lee page.
Oh yeah, do that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
Well, you can do a dragon. Do a dragon for
Okay,
Walter.
let's try a dragon. Okay, I'm going to go from what I remember it looked like. I haven't drawn many Chinese dragons, but
You're a great dragon drawer. What are you saying?
I think the simple thing is, okay, you do the nose of the Oriental dragon is more like a dog, right? And they have a muzzle with long whiskers, right? The eye, and they have stag horns, right? Horns like a stag, right? If I remember correctly. And then there's the back of the head. Let's do where the general. Are you guys seeing it? Yes, no? Too small, too big? I don't know. Is that simpler? I don't know. It's simpler to me because I remember the dragon. You have to draw the teeth. The
And
dragon
there's
ball.
also the coloring pages too, if you can use those as a way to help with the drawing. For those of us who aren't artistic, I guess.
This is one of those drawings that I did like from getting references from the posters for the movies, for the Bruce Lee movies. I wanted to get the correct dragon, but I guess the dragons are pretty similar in representation from what I managed to research. Have scales. Have eyebrows and then you do the neck. Then you erase half of what you have done and then you redraw it. That's how I do it. I think. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't plan on this, so. Scales and the underbelly. And the leg. Was that it? I think that's it. It's the closest thing I get to. Like, this is what I remember the dragon looked like.
Looks like a dragon to me. I think it looks great.
All right.
Well, thank you, Juan, for drawing that. And we're having some messages that are coming in. They're saying, yes, thank you. It looks great.
All right.
Okay. Before we have just a couple minutes left. We have probably, see, we have a dragon there. See, sometimes just using your imagination is what's best. So thank you for showing.
There's a dragon. Someone draw a dragon.
Yeah, we have some coloring pages. So thank you for sharing those. Was there any final comments that you guys wanted to give Oliver, Juan, and Bill?
I was trying to put it in the chat actually just to compliment the young artists, but so I'll just say it out loud. Those that drew along with Juan, very nicely done.
So keep practicing, it sounds right, and you be okay to use your eraser, right? That's your recommendation?
Yeah, don't be afraid. You start losing it, like you start using it less and less after you practice a lot. I haven't, so I need to practice more.
Well, thank you very much. If you guys can turn on your cameras and you show your pictures right now. And thank you everyone for joining, and very much thank you to Oliver, Philip, and Juan for reading, drawing, and thank everyone for your questions. You guys did an awesome job. And we hope that you guys can join either just Historical Society. You guys are also speaking with the library, correct? If I remember.
I will be speaking with a couple different libraries.
Yeah, so
in the next few weeks.
Yeah, so stay tuned, and you can follow a Medium Books to see where else they will be presenting. So you can not just learn, today you learned about 4 amazing Chinese Americans, but you can learn more about other Asian Americans and read more about the awesome Asian Americans book. So thank you everyone, and have a great afternoon.
So thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.